Hey, Hawkeye fans. Welcome into the Hawk Central podcast on this Tuesday. I am Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, along with Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register. Um, I know my volume has been kind of quiet lately. I think we have taken some steps, or else Dargan's was like super loud. And so we're trying to thread the needle here to give you guys better volume. So as Tyler and I talk, put it in the comments if it sounds improved from previous times, if you've been a past listener or not. We just want to get it better for you guys. So we're trying here, and I'm not like super techie, but I want to get better. So we're going to try. Tyler Tachman, Des Moines Register. It's been a busy day. I'm not, I don't like to complain on these things, but I'm very tired, very tired. Had a really, big day yesterday, family wise, and so came into woke up at like whatever 5 o'clock today to get over to Iowa City for Women's Media Day. But we're gonna talk football in this one, Tyler. Newsy day today. Newsy day today. Just in the terms of wanted to hear from Mark Granowski how he felt. Wanted to hear about Penn State, their side of things, and kind of what Iowa's prepping for with a James Franklinless Nittany Lions. So I'm going to give you those two topics, and you're going to pick the first topic we talk about today.
Can you repeat that, but get a megaphone so everyone can hear?
Oh, brother, here we go.
Nah, I can hear you good. Well, let's start with Mark Granowski. Why
Yeah,
not?
let's
We,
do
we
it.
haven't
Yeah.
we haven't talked about him much this season, so I figure we can probably start out.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
think we've done any quarterback podcasts.
No, no, not at
Yeah.
all. No. So, well, I was curious as to like how his body was going to respond coming off of the Wisconsin game because we
Mm-hmm.
heard about all the rehab he did leading up to it, and there didn't sound like there had been major setbacks as he practiced, before Madison. But I was curious to see. Obviously, the game is kind of a different scenario. Like, how did his body respond to that? And it seems like it has responded well. He said, "I felt I felt better physically. It felt like I was running the ball a little bit better, just going to keep progressing." So, I mean, I guess that's probably pretty much all you could ask for. It doesn't sound like coming out of the Wisconsin game there was any major setbacks. And on top of that, it seems like it continues to get better. And I guess what you hope is it just keeps building to the point where he feels more comfortable and confident in some of those quarterback runs that have been so effective, because that was a little bit out of the repertoire against Wisconsin. And honestly, Iowa didn't even really need to use it, but obviously an encouraging thing when it comes to his health and keeping him healthy, that, he came out of the Wisconsin game, basically good, and he's continuing to get better health wise.
Is there like banging in your apartment building, or is that my house? My
I
parents'
don't hear
building?
any
I
banging.
hear just banging. Maybe there's stuff going on upstairs. Hopefully you guys
That's
can't hear
fine.
it. You can't hear it?
Are you,
All right, good.
are you
We're,
it's a
unlike
little
me,
delusional
I'm
here? I don't know.
delusional with no sleep here.
Well,
But how about you?
It is October, so I don't know if I have ghosts. I don't know if I have ghosts in my apartment, but I might
um,
need to check for those.
yeah, so yeah, good observations there on Granowski. You talked to him a lot longer than I did. I stopped over for a couple minutes with him today, but I was bouncing around to work on some other things with some other guys. But when the little bit I did talk to him was he did seem like he was progressing. He thought there might be more quarterback run game involved this week. Now, he's not going to give us the game plan. He could certainly be misleading us. But what has struck me about him so far is he's very honest. Doesn't give away stuff. But, oh, thank you. Hey, Hawks win again says he doesn't hear it. So good. It's just me. It's just me, everyone. Um, so I think that's a really good sign. That's a good sign that he is not getting worse, especially if you're playing a game. Now, he did make the point that he barely got hit the other day. He took no sacks. And honestly, like, I don't think he took like any big shots like after he threw the ball even. So it was by far the least he's had contact in any game this year. But can you keep protecting him? And I'm sure Penn State's going to come after him. They're going to try to knock him out of the game. They've got athletes, and they probably want to see Jeremy Hicklinski in there because they got their own backup quarterback. So I guess to me, it is, that was encouraging. Again, like I didn't think we'd be at this point right now, going into the Penn State game and thinking that Mark Granowski is on his Maybe not 100% yet, but on his way there.
But then the other thing is we've talked about so much about how valuable Iowa's offensive line has been in the run game, and they very much showed it against Wisconsin. But the fact that you have that offensive line protecting Mark Granowski, I think is a big positive, and that one an offensive line that you can trust that has been good in pass protection to where you can try to limit the amount of times that Mark Granowski is going to have to scramble or be fleshed out of the pocket. So that's another benefit of just how good Iowa's offensive line has been playing and the experience you have there with Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker and Bo Stevens is that you have an offensive line you can trust to protect him. And the other thing is, I mean, as positive as things have been seeming to go for Iowa's season the last few weeks, like they're 2-1 in Big Ten play. Their one loss during that stretch came to a team that's like a legitimate college football playoff contender. It still feels like the season kind of hangs in the balance of Mark Granowski's health. Like if he goes out with something, then expectations are kind of totally out the door, and that's where we were at like 2 weeks ago, basically, when we didn't know what his status would be. Like it's kind of just survive in advance if you don't have him. But so that basically I'm saying is it's great that he's healthy, but it's very much still like Iowa's hopes and dreams of this season are hinging on his ability to be on the field.
Well, I do think that the schedule couldn't have worked out better. I mean, you get hurt, pretty serious knee re-injury, and you get a bye week, and then you get an opponent that honestly just didn't give a ton of, you know, problems to Iowa. So, I mean, super short field touchdowns, then you're in control the rest of the way. You don't have to have Mark Granowski, spinning plates out there trying to get stuff done. It was very safe. They were able to execute a very safe and conservative game plan and still score 37 points. And then, so that's 2 weeks of recovery. Now we're getting to 3 weeks recovery. Now you see you got a big game coming, and also now the opponent on the other team has a backup quarterback. So it's not like you're facing an uphill battle there. Iowa's now favored. In some places it's up to 3 points now that Iowa's favored, and they were a 10.5 point underdog preseason. So definitely things have trended in Iowa's favor in this matchup. Obviously, as most of the talk today was about what this Penn State team will look like coming into Iowa City. And so I guess that's where we can go next here, Tyler, because what do you, I mean, I wrote, that was the number one thought I had, number one and number two thoughts in my column today was sort of about the dynamic of an interim coach, what that means from Iowa's side of things. I will talk about the Iowa side of things first, and then we can get into the Penn State side of things. But as you would expect, probably, if you're any length of Hawkeye fan, the Iowa mantra this week is to just focus on what's inside the building. A number of guys, including Brian Allen, whose quote I used, it was nice to talk to Brian Allen, by the way. Haven't talked to him much. Basically said Kelvin Bell tells us the enemy is in the building. We just have to focus on ourselves. And he's not saying there's a plant in the building. He's saying that if you don't take care of yourself and you start listening to outside stuff, then that's when things can get rough. So we just got to do our thing, practice hard, watch the film, prepare, and get out there and play. So, I mean, of any program, Tyler, I feel like Iowa is wired the right way to handle this Penn State game maturely. Yet at the same time, it's just the reality in college football. As Ferentz said after the Wisconsin game, it's a week-to-week sport. You cannot predict from 1 week to the next what is going to happen. I doubt many people predicted Iowa would even beat Wisconsin 37-0. I doubt anybody predicted Northwestern was going to beat Penn State. Certainly nobody predicted UCLA was going to beat Penn State. So, it is week to week, and their best approach is the way Iowa does it, which is handling their business 1 week at a time. And it has worked for Kirk Ferentz for 208 wins.
Yeah. And so, Chad, here's a question for you. And if you're listening, you can also think about this. What would your reaction be if before the season you found out that Penn State would be coming into Kinnick Stadium at 0-3 in the Big Ten without James Franklin as their head coach? Like what would you have thought?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even really imagine a scenario like
Yeah.
that was realistic. Like, because there's no way you could expect them to be this bad. And I was listening to the ESPN Game Day podcast with their top guys or whatever, and they're like, they've been to Penn State practice, and it's like these guys are, you know, these are like legit players. Like, I, it just shocks everyone that they are not winning games. And so, getting Franklin out of there, does that maybe there was something going on there? It does seem like what we were able to read some today. I'm sure you guys can read some stuff out there too, like that there is, there was more going on than just on the field play in dismissing Franklin. So this could galvanize. It has the chance to galvanize Penn State, and I would have felt better if Franklin was the coach, honestly, this week for Iowa's chances. I do not feel as good about him now.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the perception of the game has taken like a total 180 from what it was entering the season, because this one seemed like a pretty big long shot. I thought was probably the two most tough games on Iowa's schedule were Oregon and Penn State, and now it totally flips to, hey, outside perception is if like Iowa probably should win this game, but that it can be with the coaching change, facing a team who just changed their coaches can be a slippery slope, because on one hand, there's a lot going on over there right now. They have an interim coach. There's uncertainty about what the future is going to look like. But on the other hand, that can be a real situation where a team can come together and a team can rally. And Kirk Ferentz alluded to, that's what UCLA did when they got rid of Deshaun Foster earlier this season, and they were the team to knock off Penn State in shocking fashion and upset them, where it really started that tailspin now for the Nittany Lions. So it's a double-edged sword, I think, because on one hand you have a backup quarterback, you have a team that's obviously struggling, but on the other hand, there's a lot of emotions that you would have to think are coming into play here. So it makes things trickier. But if there is something, and there's a reason that I still have confidence that Iowa can handle it, and that's because of what they did to Wisconsin last week. And that's not, obviously the teams are on two different tiers, but you went into Madison where this was obviously a program that was facing a lot of criticism, a head coach that was facing criticism, and a game who the year before Iowa just totally embarrassed them. And this was one that like Wisconsin had circled on their calendars, and you felt like even though Wisconsin has not been a good team, Iowa was going into a place where, hey, Wisconsin was going to be ultra motivated, and you felt like they were going to put their best foot forward. And Iowa came in there and just flattened them, handled business, no doubt about it. So that does give me a sense of confidence that Iowa, against, maybe a team that's going to be motivated and that has some emotions backed in this game, that Iowa can handle it.
Fair. I like that analysis there. Obviously, it's more optimistic, and that's good. The in my thoughts column, just to pull a couple of things out of it. As you said, UCLA goes from 0-4 to beating Penn State, and then whipping Michigan State on the road in East Lansing. That's not easy to do. Iowa fans also remember that the one time that Iowa has not beaten Nebraska since 2015, starting with the 2015 season, Iowa's beaten Nebraska every year except one, and that happened to be when there was an interim coach leading the Huskers in 2022 into Kinnick Stadium after Scott Frost had been fired. Virginia Tech got a little bounce after firing Brent Pry, a former Penn State DC, by the way, earlier this year. As Dargan will point out, who's producing our podcast behind the scenes, but won't be popping on, I think, because his son's watching Paw Patrol. So there might be some extra noise in my headphones. But that Arkansas gave Tennessee all it can handle after firing Sam Pittman the other day. So at Tennessee, they lost by like 3, I think. So you can get a little bit of a bounce. And remember Northwestern. I mean, it wasn't the same thing, but they had to fire Pat Fitzgerald. several years ago, and then David Braun goes on and wins Big Ten Coach of the Year because he keeps those guys together. So, and that was a totally different thing. But I'm just saying it's not like, oh, well, they're done. Like their team's not going to buy in anymore. They're not going to try anymore. Like it can go the other way too. So I think that's kind of what I was on guard for. They're prepared for Penn State's best shot. Jennings Dunker was awesome on that topic. They are absolutely. He's like, when I turn on the tape, I see guys that they're going to outperform me at the NFL Combine, basically. And so these are high end recruits over at Penn State, and just as if they play well, they play together. Ferentz made the comment today, which I thought was a great point. They had the same exact three coordinators. They moved Terry Smith, the cornerbacks coach and associate head coach, into the head role, and they have the same three coordinators. I mean, it would be kind of like, let's say Iowa fired Kirk Ferentz and made Seth Wallace, the interim head coach. Like your coordinators wouldn't change. You'd still have Parker, you'd still have Lester, you'd still have Woods, and just a different person, organizing the head coaching role. So that's kind of the dynamic, I guess, that I was facing over at Penn State. And by the way, we will get to the backup quarterback, Ethan Grunkemeyer, in tomorrow's Hawk Central show. We're going to kind of preview the matchup part of that and what Iowa might do against a backup quarterback. We'll take care of that tomorrow. But that is a big factor too.
Yeah, and Mark Granowski, to echo what you said, basically was like he doesn't expect Penn State to look different schematically defensively. So it's that part of it. Iowa still, I think, has a pretty good idea of what it's going to face from a schematic standpoint. There's obviously talent there at Penn State. They were thought of so highly entering the season for a reason. Obviously, now Drew Aller isn't part of the equation, but I think this is a game where Iowa's defense and its crowd smells blood in the water and is just going to need a pounce, because that's a difficult place for a young, inexperienced quarterback to come into. Iowa's defense is coming off its best performance of the season. It forced 3 turnovers. To me, this is one where there's a lot of factors that play into it in terms of everything going on that the program at Penn State is juggling. But this is a game I think Iowa's defense and crowd can win, because you get that inexperienced quarterback really feeling the heat, get pressure on them. And I mean, that there's just I don't see many pathways for Penn State to win if Iowa is able to do that. And then you get the crowd into it and you make it hard to hear the snap count, all that type stuff. Like then I think it just becomes really difficult.
Yeah, I think the crowd's going to be jazzed. Those stripe out games are usually great. You get the night game atmosphere. Yeah. I mean, the 2 night games they've had at Kinnick have been Albany and UMass. This is much higher, much higher level of opponent. The fans are going to be jazzed up. I feel like the fans are bought back in now a little bit after that Indiana loss. Also seeing what Indiana did at Oregon, don't you? Like the combination of what happened Saturday between Indiana looking for real. Obviously, there's still lingering disappointment that you didn't pull that game out, that you could have won. But you played them toe to toe. Arguably should have won the game, and then you just demolished a rival in Wisconsin. And Iowa fans don't like Penn State. I mean, just do not like them. They really wanted to see Franklin. I think they really wanted to beat James Franklin and be the ones to send him packing officially. But so the nerves are up in the fan base, I think, here, that maybe it's not going to be that celebratory stomping, slaying. But they do have to take care of it. They're going to try to take care of business here Saturday night, and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to think about, because that 2021 game, which was the last time Iowa beat a ranked opponent, that was it felt like a seismic moment. Like not only was it Iowa beating, not only was it just a huge game in Kinnick Stadium, but also just the ripple effects of it, of the recruiting stuff that came out of it. And that's just a game where you talk to people and you ask them oh, what are some of your favorite Iowa memories? And that's in a recent memory, that's one that's going to come to mind. I don't know if this game doesn't have quite the shine to it just because Penn State has bottomed out a little bit, but I don't, it's just interesting to see what type of moment this could be for the program. I don't know. I mean, do you think it could have that type of shine to it? I don't think it does because that was obviously like a top 5 ranked matchup and a big deal. But you just think about like all the recruiting stuff that came out of that, like
Yeah, this is
people
a
at
big
that
recruiting
game,
weekend.
the
Yeah.
the field rush, like all of that, the emotions of it. It was like just in Nico Raggini with the catch and all that. Like it just made for like one of the more iconic moments in recent Iowa football history. Like, could this be a game that delivers that type of emotion again?
I mean, it won't be the same because you're not. I think the backup quarterback and no James Franklin takes a little bit of like a luster off the quality opponent. They're no longer ranked, so you don't even if they do win, they don't even get that ranked streak off
Yeah,
their backs.
that's crazy to think about.
I know it is. I mean, we've been writing all summer like, here's these 3 ranked teams definitively going to be ranked. Several of them maybe in the top 5, and now Penn State's not even ranked. They couldn't even beat Northwestern. Take care of this for us, but no. But yeah, that's a. I don't think it won't have that shine, but it's also a chance for I feel like the Iowa program to continue to stay in that upper second tier in the Big Ten right now. I mean, it's not going to jump you into the first tier because you didn't beat Indiana the other day, but you can see that you can see this Iowa team is going to have a chance now in every game the rest of the way as long as Granowski is healthy and the way this defense is starting to play. So let's get into some of that, some of the final little things, I guess, from today's Tuesday news conference. Zach Lutmer, we saw him move out to cornerback, and we talked about it a little bit in our post-game show. And you're going to write about this a little more later in the week, more in depth on it. But I kind of insinuated perhaps maybe it was a one-game thing against Wisconsin. Kirk Ferentz seemed to indicate it might be more of a permanent thing. What did you take from his comments?
Yeah, it seemed hard to tell because he said it was based on basically the personnel that Wisconsin was running, that they felt that was a good choice. I mean, the thing is, at this point, basically what Iowa was doing was, rather than having Deshaun Lee on the field at all times, they were choosing between having either Deshaun Lee or Jackson Rexroth on the field and having Zach Lutmer out there all the time. And I think, I'd rather have Zach Lutmer on the field all the time as opposed to those other two. So um, I don't know. I like the decision because Zach Lutmer, I mean, he's quickly becoming one of the more valuable players on Iowa's defense because of his versatility and because, I mean, he had that huge interception against Indiana that really should have been the game sealer to set up the field goal for Drew Stevens. But then he recovers a fumble against Wisconsin. He's a guy that is
He's
making
their best
plays.
playmaker on
Yeah,
defense. Yeah.
this is I think he's kind of taking on that ball hawk mentality, making things happen. And this is his first year as a starter. He made his first start in Iowa's opener this season. So he's a guy that I feel like in 6 games we've seen ascend and kind of take on that larger role. And then you add on the fact that he is now showing that versatility because we also know he can play safety, he can play cash. Leading up to this season, him and Cohen Entringer were kind of rotating around at safety, and now you put him at cornerback. So he's someone I think in terms of value on Iowa's defense is quickly kind of climbing the ladder.
Yeah, he's got. If there's Bears fans out there, um, you want the Bears have been without this player named Kyler Gordon, formerly of Washington, and he's there to put it in Iowa terms. He's basically their versatile cash, and he can cover, he can run stuff, he could play safety too. He might be their best defensive player without Jalen Johnson. So to have he came back last night. The Bears won at Washington. It was a major development for their defense. They looked a lot better, and Lutmer is becoming that. He's becoming the Cooper DeJean, where Cooper played corner, Cooper played cash, and I think that's we talked about Iowa needing to develop some stars on defense. I think he's probably right now the closest thing to a star that they do have on defense. I would say, wouldn't you? I mean, maybe Graves. I mean, Graves kind of had a moment the other day, but when we were talking about their best players on defense, I mean, I would put him near the top right now, Lutmer. Wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
Well, I
Would
think
he
the
be one? Would he be one?
I don't know if he'd be. I
He
just
might
think
be.
I think the good thing about Iowa's defense is there's a case for a handful of guys. Like,
Yeah.
is it Aaron Graves? Is it Max Llewellyn, Cohen Entringer, T.J. Hall? I think there's a lot of guys that have
Mm-hmm.
at least an argument in the conversation, and that's what's been the good thing about Iowa's defense is you have guys who have taken on bigger roles that are delivering in them. And so,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think Lutmer there's an argument to be made there for him.
Yeah. One of the commenters, Andrew, piggybacking off our previous topic, said it might be one of the most important games to start the first quarter hot in a long time. Need to get the crowd going and put that doubt in Penn State's minds early. Certainly, that would really help Iowa's cause. Now remember, in 2021, Iowa fell behind 17-3 and came back to win, so it doesn't mean you're out of it. But yeah, that would be once the Iowa crowd got going against Penn State's backup quarterback, whose name is escaping me right now, but the guy after Sean Clifford, that's when the snowball effect started and the Kinnick noise got to them. Any other football topics, Tyler, or do you want to ward off panic about the secret scrimmage before men's basketball media day tomorrow? You choose.
No, I'll make a point about the hot start or fast start.
Okay. You're going to go a different direction. Pick a third topic. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, there was a lot of things you could point at that Indiana game. Drew Stevens missing a field goal, not Elijah Surratt letting him get free on that long touchdown that ended up being the game winner, the way Iowa managed the end of the first half. But what really hurt too was Mark Granowski throwing that interception really early in the game and Indiana turning that into a quick touchdown. So, we talk about fast start. Like if Iowa didn't get off to that start against Indiana, they basically started down 7-0 almost. The game could have turned out differently. So I almost like phrase it as I don't know if Iowa needs to get off to a fast start. They just can't get off to a slow start. Like
There you go. Yeah.
they can't put themselves behind the sticks like they did in that Indiana game because you play against teams that are talented. And Indiana at this point is obviously a better team than Penn State, but like you just can't dig yourself that quick hole and expect to come away with a win because those things add up. Like, there was just maybe 4 or 5 plays in that Indiana game. Some of the things I mentioned that if you make 1 or 2 of those plays, you win, but adding them all up, it's something that Iowa can't overcome. So I don't think you can let Penn State into the door real early like that, or at least Iowa can't dig themselves an early hole.
Yeah, and with the athletes they're bringing, I mean, they could do that on defense. One mistake by Granowski, one fumble by a running back, picked up and scooped and go the other way. Yeah, it's no wonder Ferentz always is nervous about these things because that's the kind of stuff that races through his mind and worries him about these games. And even with Iowa favored by 3, it's still basically a toss-up. So, all right, anything else before we go?
I think that's all good.
All right, we got Hawks Central tomorrow. Dargan Southard will join me to have a full segment on women's basketball. So Tyler and I will preview Iowa Penn State on our show tomorrow. And then, of course, we'll have our post-game podcast for you guys Saturday night from Kinnick Stadium right here on our Hawks Central YouTube page. Chad Leistikow, Tyler Tachman saying so long. And by the way, men's basketball media day is tomorrow. I think I mentioned that, but it's at noon tomorrow for those late arriving here. We'll talk to you very soon.